Dear journalists, welcome. We are going to talk about the consequence of political games. 137 wounded near Verkhovna Rada. We are going to have Olga Bogomolets, MP from Petro Poroshenko Bloc, Chairwoman of the Parliamentary Committee of Health, advisor of the President of Ukraine, and also the representative Kovalenko, head of the Central Hospital of the Ministry of Interior of Ukraine, and Olexandr Vorona, head of the Dermatologic Department of the Central Hospital in the Ministry of Interior. Some guests, you have the floor now. Where is Mr. Vashylyshyn? Mr. Vashylyshyn, please join us. Perhaps you have not been introduced yet. Dear colleagues, our today's press conference is dedicated to those combat losses suffered by Ukraine because of the political games near Verkhovna Rada. Today we have 3 killed persons. One died yesterday, and another today in Kyiv, and one in Olexandrivskiy Hospital. Before I allow myself to offer to your attention some kind of finalization, systematization of this process, I would like to touch upon the most important thing: the life of each person, human being, because the economy, policy, the statehood are secondary to the life of a person. That's why I would like to give the floor, first of all, to the head of the emergency medical service, which is situated in Kyiv, who was active in Maidan, and who was present yesterday near Verkhovna Rada, Mr. Vashylyshyn, who would tell you about the problems faced by the emergency ambulances in order for us, to those who are next to us, those who are listening and watching us today, to make conclusions, understand what we have to do in order for the service be able to bring each of the wounded persons as soon as possible to the hospital. Sometimes the minutes are decisive in saving the lives of a person. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the work in the ambulance service is very, there is a lot of load. We had more than 6,500 calls, 1690 calls, and a lot of persons were taken to the hospital. Between 1 and 3 p.m. we had 97% of the traffic load. That was the situation for 92 teams of ambulance work, and nothing was could predict some kind of misfortune, but we came to know about 12 o'clock that there is a big mob near Verkhovna Rada, and around 1 p.m. we sent the ambulances. In the first call came at 1:20 from the journalists that there are a lot of people who were actually not, if not victims, but wounded, and we had 25 teams working there who came to this hotbed of the extraordinary criminal situation, which was uncontrolled and unforeseen. There was a threat to the life and the health of the medical personnel, and owing to the assistance of those who were present there, we managed to bring everybody to the hospital. Nobody died on the way to the hospital. None of the medical officers were wounded or injured. So, but the situation was absolutely extraordinary. Well, I would like to say that what was in the way of our work, first of all, lack of uncontrolled throngs of people, mob of people, and we had we needed some corridor for the ambulances to approach the Verkhovna Rada to take the patients. The assistance or the aid was not provided from the very beginning. There were a lot of different services involved. Coordination headquarters was not there absolutely. In that, then we had to work at the available conditions. We would like to praise the work of the new police, who really helped us a lot to hospitalize our patients. The slightly wounded, they would take their cars to carry them and provided the green street to us in order to take an urgent care of carrying the seriously wounded patients to the hospitals. And we offered the necessary aid. The situation was extraordinary, extreme situation in the Department of the Health Care. From the very first minutes, arranged the headquarters, and we actually introduced the plan of admission of the patients, which was kind of an uncontrolled flow of the patients. The hospitals, nearby hospitals, were prepared for this, but the traditional, they tried to bring the patients to the military hospital, to the Ministry of Interior hospital, hospital number 17, where different traumatologists, experts in injuries, and surgeons were sent there. But I would like to notify that of late, for some reasons, there were a lot of large-scale, mass-scale arrangements and events which can threaten to the health and the life of the persons. They actually planned to have the cycling event during the night with 5,000 people to be involved. We actually are very concerned about such events, and we had some team which was at the site of that event and tried to introduce control. Just how many calls for the 1,690 cases, how many wounded people were taken to the hospital? 96 patients, 46 patients were taken by the ambulances to the above-mentioned hospitals. Once again, I would like to notify the following problems we face. I kindly ask you, journalists, to convey this message to society. When the ambulance is on its way, any mob, any throngs of people have to give way to the ambulance to provide the access to the wounded persons. And I witnessed the day before yesterday. None of the cars make way for the ambulances. They just pretend not to notice the ambulances. I believe that we have to revisit the legislation, and those drivers who never give way to the ambulances, they have to be penalized much seriously than it is provided for today. The number of wounded yesterday was that big that the municipal ambulance or the could not give the necessary help. So we have to involve other vehicles, and we have to to introduce a system how to provide such help. We do not have such a system now. We have to take care of that. Yesterday, the biggest number of wounded were sent to the Ministry of Interior Central Hospital, and practically all the wounded yesterday. In the end of our press conference, you'll have all the total number of all the calls and the addresses. We have 60 wounded in the hospitals. And I would like to give the floor to the head of the military hospital. You have the floor. Kovalenko, head of the Central Military Hospital. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Indeed, starting from 1400 August 31st this year, the Central Hospital of the Ministry of Interior of Ukraine, they started to bring those who were injured, wounded near the Verkhovna Rada building. They were sent there to take care of the public order. But starting at 2 p.m., as I mentioned before, we saw the guys bleeding, young guys. That was unexpected and expected at the same time, because we have some experience in providing medical aid. in case of some mass-scale unrest or problems. And perhaps we're expecting peace, but expecting peace, you have to be prepared for war, as they say. 90% of the patients, and we hospitalized over the last 24 hours, 60 patients. Those patients had numerous, injuries of the soft tissues of some extremities, legs and arms, and the bodies. 2 patients who were hospitalized to our hospitals, they were in severe condition, unconscious, and they were given the the intensive therapy ward. One of the guys who did not need the surgery and the conservative treatment actually led to that we can actually transfer him to the neurology department. One more wounded person had a very severe skull injury, with his eye was injured and the skull was broken. And we took some surgeries, operation, but unfortunately the state of this patient is very serious. We tried to keep him alive using the artificial ventilation device and the medications, and we pray to the God, and we rely upon the skills of the doctors who take care of this patient. Okay, today the majority of the patients they have a satisfactory condition, and tomorrow we will take care of, now let's say, the dismissal of those, discharge of those patients, and they will be able to return to their duties since that time. The head of the Central Military Hospital, Mr. Anatoliy Kazymirchuk, has the floor. Yesterday, that hospital helped 26 wounded persons. Almost all of them are the employees of the Ministry of Interior. Dear colleagues, I would like to emphasize and to raise the issue which my colleagues were talking about regarding the timely delivery of the wounded to the hospitals, where we can provide them the skilled or qualified medical service or treatment. And despite the fact that over the more than 18 months we are prepared to take care of the injured, the wounded person around the clock, we received 26 patients. 90% of them had the multiple fragmented injuries of the extremities, of the abdomen, of the chest. There is one patient who had kind of combined fire wound of the abdomen and the open skull injury. Thanks God, nothing actually threatens his life, has been saved. And we are trying to, we are going to provide the surgical treatment to the surgery operation of abdomen. And actually there was a skull injury, and there was a fragment coming through his skull and his brain. And we are thinking, if we are going to remove that fragment of grenade, this could be detrimental to this patient. We also had 2 patients with a penetrating injury of the chest with the pneumothorax. As a result of that, and we found the loss of 350 loss of blood. And we were talking about the period of time which we had to take those patients to hospital. It was maximum 15 minutes, and when we hospitalized those patients, in fact, over the 15 minutes, within 15 minutes, were offered the high-skilled medical aid. Those wards were treated, and they are now staying in the ordinary wards under the surveillance and supervision of the medical personnel. That we are blessed that only one serious case we have today, but he is in stable condition. All the rest are offered the necessary medical treatment, and at this point of time, nothing threatens the lives of those persons. Thank you. Once again, I would like to come back to the pneumothorax when there is the lung damage, and those persons whose chest who had the chest injuries. Those fragments of the grenades actually, they all were wearing the bulletproof vest, but those fragments came from the side of their bodies, unprotected, so to say. And owing to the fact that near the Verkhovna Rada building, there was Oksana Korchinsky, deputy MP of the Verkhovna Rada, who knew how to sort out the injured and wounded persons. She had also necessary medication, and owing to them, they saved the lives of those persons. If they were, Oksana were not there yesterday, we could not guarantee those two guys that they would survive. Once again, I would like to emphasize this first golden hour which we have to ensure the front line. During this period of time, we can save the maximum lives of our patients. A few words to Olexandr Vorona, one of the most experienced surgeons or orthopedists and traumatologists of the Hospital Ministry of Interior of Ukraine. He is going to demonstrate how we can diagnose where those fragments are found, why they stay there, why that the doctors, medical officers do not retrieve them and do not remove them from the body of the patients. I would like to show to you the examples of the X-ray images of those patients who were blessed that in the majority of cases, in 90 plus percent, there was no wounded, light, or this medium gravity, as we say. They are blind, non-complicated, non-penetrating wounds of the body, bones, and extremities. Please, all the comments into the mic. Here in this image, you can see the direct projection, a metal object, actually the fragment, which is located near this kind of bone. Unfortunately, there is not the side view rentgenogram. I saw that image. This find behind the soft tissue. In other words, this fragment is not to be found in the void of the pelvis. Also, the irregular form fragment is to be found in the ankle area. You see the two bones are injured. It's not it did not damage the bone, but the soft tissues. That patient was blessed. I would like to show to you the patient who has been operated on, and surgical operation was provided to him. Yesterday, this patient was operated due to the open explosion caused trauma. We can see the both bones are broken, and another bone where there was a small wound, and you can see the very small fragment. And this patient was operated on the right leg bone, taking consideration of this damage and the open fracture. We compared the fragmented bones as it's required by the specifics of this wound, and through the skin using five spikes, we tried to find this fragment, but this was inside the bone, so it should not damage too much the bone. If those fragments do not damage the vessel and nervous bundle, we do not remove such fragments. We actually provide some therapy and then we consider the possibility or the necessity to remove those fragments. Thank you. Esteemed colleagues, summing up the losses we suffered yesterday, we can say the following: unfortunately, 3 persons died: Igor Debrin, Petro Slastikov, and Kristina Alexander. One of those died just several hours ago in Olexandr Hospital because of the fragmented wounds of the brain, and the remaining 2 died in the central hospital because of the loss of blood and the wounds inflicted. We now have 60 wounded persons in the Ministry of Interior Central Hospital, in the Central Military Hospital, 26 in the first 60, in the 17th hospital, 40 wounded persons. We had 42 of those died, as you know. In the Olexandrivskiy Hospital, we had 6. We had 7, one of them died. Also, there were some addresses, self-addresses, one of the ambulatory hospital with light wound. 7, let's say, visits to the emergency hospital, and 1, let's say, 1 person applied to another hospital. This is the picture as of today. And what I would like to say, what happened yesterday, if we sum up the political results of what happened, the task of the doctors, of the medical officers, to preserve and save life physically, and the task of the politicians to build a country which would provide the safe life to its citizens. Yesterday we had the press conference to the consequences of PTSD, the psychological trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. We are talking about those people who they are participants in the 2 operation now with the enhanced justice senses, and they are involved in such situations. You remember the first occasion of this kind was in Mukachevo, where the fighters of the right sector were manipulated by the politicians, and today we have the fighters coming back from the ATO zone who have the increased sense of justice, and they visualize today their enemies sitting in the Verkhovna Rada, and those enemies of theirs that they believe, who they visualize as enemies, they have to do everything possible so that the government does for the Ukraine everything possible to share responsibility and not to put this responsibility on somebody else's shoulders. And when the participants in the ATO operation who do not value their lives, and those people who have never been in war value, when they are involved in the political games in such a way, we actually eliminate the new political elite, because those fighters who come back from front line, they have to adjust themselves back to our life and to be perceived by as those people who are going to build new Ukraine. Actually, I would be happy to hear that the person who actually threw the grenade yesterday, in several hours after that accident, we knew the names of those who were guilty for that. But it's very, we have also negative sensation that there is a kind of double attitude. We do not know still the names of those who are guilty of the Devaltsevo-Novaitsk tragedy. And I know that the deputies, the MPs, have to start their sessions within window of silence. They have to understand that every day we suffer the casualties. Those people who defend the security and safety of the people of our country die every day when they cannot even fire back at the enemies. This is still more tragic. I'm going to initiate, I don't know how the Verkhovna Rada is going to perceive that, but I believe this would to be only fair that each MP has to understand his or her own responsibility for the future of the country, and not to allow the political manipulation on the part of those who today have the elevated sense of justice today. Thank you very much. We are prepared to take your questions, if any. Please introduce yourselves, who you address your questions, we are going to answer. 1+1 to which Vyacheslav Doletsky. Olga, my questions to you. Can you clarify how many people are in the severe and grave state? Do you have enough medications? Maybe this not within your competence, but anyway, do you know anything about the financial aid to the families of those who were injured or killed? As regarding your question regarding the medical provision and medications, I will actually readdress it to the hands of the hospitals, because yesterday when we had a bad need for the consultants, I would like to thank the employees of the medical academy, Mitsambaluk, who operated during the night the patients, and also to thank the doctors of the emergency hospital who operated patients in the hospital number 17, Olexandrivskiy Hospital, who operated patients in the Ministry of Interior Hospital. And I would like to tell that before that was impossible in this country, because the medical institutions are in 20 different, they're subordinate to 20 different structures, so to say. We have to introduce some order. We have to have the military medicine, which has to provide assistance to all the wounded, because 137 patients who were wounded yesterday, they were brought, if they were brought only to the Central Hospital Ministry of Interior, it would be impossible to provide the qualified medical assistance to everyone. That's why the responsibility of the Ministry of Interior was shared with the municipal institutions, which were the closest and most skillful. They found it difficult that people blocked their way, and the military institutions took the part of the responsibility, and they admitted most severe cases. So all the consultation services were provided yesterday, but every day the needs change depending on the state or the patient. Now they're going to say what they need. As for the financial aid, definitely the Minister of the Social Protection, Minister of Defense, and Minister of Interior will take care of that. Those who bear responsibility for the families of those who were wounded or killed. As for the Minister of Defense, we already are working. Our center started from the time of the Revolution of Dignity and the ITO zone. We do not make difference whether they are representatives of the armed force of Ukraine or other law enforcement or any just ordinary citizens. Those people who need some help, they have to be provided. This is a medical aid to any medical institution. So I must tell you, I can tell you that in our center we provide assistance to the military, the servicemen, the volunteers, civil citizens who are injured or wounded at the front line. And in this case, we specifically, when we had yesterday's situation, we never discriminated between those who belong to the armed forces or the Ministry of Interior employees. So they were offered, and they continue to be offered, necessary medical aid. And this is not a big number of the patients. We didn't have any problems with the material support, and we do not have any problems today. Unfortunately, we brought help to 80% of those persons who unfortunately were wounded yesterday. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank specifically Olga Bogomolets, because yesterday when they brought the patients to our hospital, she was there, and with their assistance they involved the experts and specialists of the Medical Academy of Sciences. Thank you for that. We have a certain experience, that's why the reserve of the medication for such kind of force majeure situation like the one we had yesterday, we do have this reserve. But if those force majeure will take place more often, it would be desirable to have more reserve, special solutions which are used by the experts by reanimation, resuscitation, and the physiological. We have all the necessary bandages, and the material base allows us to provide the assistance to everybody who has been hospitalized. But we would like, as desirable, to have more funds for necessary medication bandages. Speaking of one person is in grave condition today. Yesterday there were two persons in severe case in the grave state, but one is has been treated and now his life is has been saved. Dear colleagues, I would like to say that my task is to make sure that the funds or the more money is allocated to this, and I believe definitely that in the times of warfare, funding of the medical services, it has not been changed as compared to the increase of the military budget and the Minister of Defense budget. And take consideration number of the wounded persons we have today. We have to be prepared and not to look where to buy bandages, antibiotics, or the painkillers. In each medical institution of the city of Kyiv, in any medical institution which is located at the borders of our country, we have to provide the strategic reserves. And through the committee of the Verkhovna Rada, we verified those reserves. They are not there. What they have, they are outdated or obsolete from the previous life, so to say. So definitely, ask Alexander Mikhailovich how many devices of the external fixation you have. 20, but all those devices were provided by volunteers to the hospital. So the issue, the question is that not the volunteers have to provide that, but the government has to be responsible for that. Yesterday with Anatoliy Vasylyshyn, we visited hospital number 17, the military hospital. Yeah, where they provided was the clothes to those guys. Yeah, the biggest problem we faced yesterday that actually all the clothes of those guys were actually ruined or damaged, and they had to also they have to cut their clothes, and many of them were deprived of any clothes at all. And the volunteer hundreds, so to say, they helped to provide those guys with the first necessity items, and we are going to exercise control further on, and we will insist, and we will try to request of the cabinet ministers, the prime minister, to increase the funded and also the medical service of the Minister of Defense, Minister of the Interior, because I believe the finances are not enough. I have two clarifications to you, Olga. Do you have the information how many severe cases remain? And another clarification, we do not have the representative of the 17th hospital. There was yesterday information that they lacked some medication there. So do you have any information about hospital number 17? As for the grave cases or severely wounded, today they actually use the artificial medical means. Those two guys who died today, they also try to keep them going, hoping that they will save their lives. We still have one severe case in the hospital, the Minister of Interior, one severe wounded with the trauma of the cranial brain. There is a severe case in the hospital number 17, and actually today we have 3 persons in rather severe condition, serious condition, so we cannot guarantee that the number of the casualties will not increase. We cannot guarantee that. Regarding hospital number 17, the mayor of the city went there, and I believe if there are some problems, they will be resolved. I had a call from on my way here from one of your colleagues, journalists. He mentioned that they have some want or lack, but he did not specify what exactly or who needs that. So please do not hesitate. When you call me, I need to know exactly what kind of medication they need in order to find this kind of medication and send to the hospital, specific hospital. You know, sometimes if you're talking some abstract information, you cannot resolve the abstract problem. We have time for one more question. And I have the question to Anatoliy. You said that the first calls, telephone calls, came from the journals, right, to the ambulances. Did you have any information from the law enforcement bodies about some kind of rally or meetings that should? No, we didn't have such information. First call was from the public, from some of the citizens, and then from journalists, about 10 injured. Then we saw the video cameras that there was a serious situation developed there. As for the information about the function to be prepared, we did not have such information, any warning. We have the regulatory document that if there is some kind of the scheduled rally or meeting, we provide just the ambulances, just in case, you know, if there is some threat to the health or the life of the participants at the rally or the meeting. So there is a resolution of Cabinet of Ministers, a resolution of the Kyiv Municipal Administration that all the organizers are personally responsible for the different events to take place, and they have to warn before in advance about the venue and the time of this event, about the possible risk, etc. That this was not the case. It was absolutely spontaneous event, and what happened is qualified as a criminal happening. And actually, we are talking about the seizure of some of the documents available now. Thank you very much. I also would like to say that yesterday lesson, we have to analyze that lesson. Now we provide you with the fresh, the hot information, breaking news, but we are going to verify and analyze all the errors or mistakes committed. I have a lot of remarks and comments. I believe that we can improve many things, starting from the fact that the new police, which was involved yesterday, also in hospitalization, though their vehicles were used as the carrier vehicles, this police has to go through the training of paramedics. I'm going to talk about the Minister of Health Care, so that to provide them with the skills of the first pre-medical aid, the paramedic assistance, and we have to take care of that. This is so far is a kind of illegal action, and the world over, each policeman knows how to provide this aid. And again, we have to provide the medical kits to those people who actually take care of the public order near Verkhovna Rada, in coordination all the services which have to coordinate between themselves their efforts in case of such mass scale rallies or meetings. So we've been working with Mr. Vasylyshyn for more than 1 year, starting from the Orange Revolution. And this situation can be manually coordinated, so to say. During Maidan, for example, I called my mobile and I said, Mr. Anatoliy, this is Olga, Bogomolets, please send me the ambulance and tell me where this ambulance will be going to be located. Then myself, I moved to another point and again called Mr. Vasylyshyn, and he sends another ambulance where exactly. And I do hope that such cases which we had before, when the authorities prohibits to provide the medical aid when the ambulances were not going to the spot because the authorities didn't want them to go there. I do hope that this will never be the case in the future, and the medical officers, the authorities will, and the politicians will take care of the lives and health of their citizens, irrespective of what flag they are under. Thank you very much for your information. This brings us to the end of this briefing and the working day today for the for the Ukrainian